Let's start today's episode.
Welcome back, Period Besties. Today we have a Q&A episode for you. We had a question that was probably the same question we all have. They've been seeing a lot of different supplements for women's health out there, all the Instagram posts and walking down the supplement aisle and saying, I'm overwhelmed by the options for women's health supplements. Where do I start? Which, you know what? Phenomenal question. Same question I had, same question a lot of our clients have when they come to us or they're on a ton of supplements already and they're like, what am I doing? Like, how do I, I've got 20 things in my cabinet. What should I be taking? So we thought this was a great question to just give you some of the basics of supplements. So one of the first things that we like to say is if there is a test for it, test. So vitamin D comes up a lot in women's health, but thankfully there's blood work and you can test for vitamin D to see if you actually do need it or not. I know I need about double the dose on a vitamin D drops that I take to fall within the normal range. So I have it tested along with everything every year. And I always test in the normal range. So I know that sitting there with my about double the dose on the bottle is what I need to get me into the normal range. So some things you can test for. And if you can, absolutely test for it first and then see, because maybe you don't need to be spending money on that, or maybe you only need a half dose of it, So it could even be something like you could be saving money and time and energy not having to take that supplement because actually the blood work shows you're in perfectly normal range for that particular thing.
Yeah, and with vitamin D too, because I know the quote unquote normal range is around 30, but in our practices, 50 to 70, 80, women feel way better than 30. Like if you're low in vitamin D, you're going to feel really low, depressed. You're probably going to have more anxiety. I mean, vitamin D is so important for overall health and hormones. And like you mentioned, everybody needs a little bit of a different dose. And a lot of it is about how your gut is absorbing it. So some people do better with tinctures and capsules. And it really should be tested. Every time you get blood work, you should just be testing it to see where you fall, because different times of the year, especially in the darker, colder months, even though you're taking your regular dosage, if you're feeling a little bit off, you might just not be absorbing it right that time of year. So vitamin D is a good one because you can test. And I always am like, if you're going for blood work, just add it in because it's not an expensive one either. And it's something that gives us a lot of good information. Love vitamin D. I would say a must have. And everyone listening that follows our episodes every week is probably going to roll their eyes because we say this every time, but magnesium glycinate is so important for sleep. And I really wish I had known this as a teenager, early 20s. Like once I started adding magnesium to my nightly routine, I started sleeping so much better, deeper sleep. It's anti-stress mineral. I don't know any woman on earth that doesn't need magnesium with the amount of stress that we're all under. It is so important. It helps our body regulate and cope and manage with it way better. But even we just need to sleep better and then we can cope and manage, I should say, stress better. But yeah, magnesium, 100%. That's always my number one go-to.
Absolutely. And right, Dr. Laura Bryden, every time she comes on, she says the same thing. Dr. Carrie Jones said the same thing when she came on the podcast. Like all of the people that we have interviewed that we've asked about supplements or things women need have all said that they have given it magnesium glycinate to every client that has come through their doors. So this isn't just Katie and I. This is literally every other period coach we've ever talked to, every doctor we've talked to. They all say the same thing for magnesium glycinate. And actually, Katie, you brought up a really good point. Your gut. Can it even absorb? So sometimes with clients, I won't even start them on supplements, maybe some magnesium glycinate to help with the sleep. But a lot of times we won't even start on supplements until we get their gut working at least a little bit better. So the supplements we might start with is bone broth. just to get your gut healed, to get that lining working again, to get it absorbing again. So sometimes the supplement is actually the precursor supplement, like bone broth, to just get that gut working again, to get some fiber through the body working again. So a lot of times your first supplement is actually a gut healing process, and it's bone broth to start.
That's such a good point, and you cannot out diet a supplement. But you can't over. Wait, what's the word? What's the language I want to say? I had it in my brain. You can't over supplement if you're not dieting correctly. Like the supplements will not work
Yeah, you'll
if
just pee them
you're.
out.
Yeah, you're just gonna pee them out. And okay, so we have to say two things with that. You're gonna pee them out, and if you're taking any sort of B vitamin, your pee will be bright yellow. Don't be nervous because people get nervous. They're like, I'm just peeing it out. Well, your body can't take all of that at the same time. So it's going to keep what it needs, pee it out. But you're so right, like really supporting the gut, which is why oftentimes we're not even suggesting supplements, probably the magnesium, but depending on the D, but really that's why it's so personalized. That's why when you're scrolling, to answer your question, listener, if you're scrolling through social media and you start buying all these random supplements and you don't necessarily have a protocol of why, you don't even know why you're taking it. You're just like, well, this person's taking it, I should do it too. How do we know if it's actually what you need, what you don't need? You know, the basics, okay, but basics might be quote unquote a probiotic, but if you're not having regular bowel movements, or if you're not eating enough fiber or supporting your gut with bone broth or anything else, that probiotic might make you feel more bloated. It might make you not have regular bowel movements, right? And there's different strains of probiotics. So there's lots of nuances that kind of go into it. So please don't buy everything that an influencer is getting paid to share with you, right? And there are products that I talk about, that you talk about, that we love. That doesn't mean you should ask us first before you purchase, regardless of how much we love it.
Yeah, 100%. I just had a call with somebody whose gut is absolutely not working. And that was one of her questions was, is there something I should be taking? And I was like, no, you are in such dire straits. Your belly is so messed up right now that I would say before you do anything, you start with the gaps and you just do the cooked few veggies, bone broth, and a little bit of sauerkraut juice just to get that probiotic gently in there, not a bomb capsule, but just a little bit at a time to start rebuilding before you so much as think about a supplement. It really can make a big difference as to where you're starting, as to what supplements to take. Some of them work together well, some of them have contraindications. In fact, I just taught the supplements class for my perimenopause certification coaching students. And the contraindications, there's one on every single supplement. So you have to talk to your doctor to make sure that it's not going to contraindicate with, even magnesium glycinate has contraindications. They all have them. So if there's something going on, you need to talk to your doctor. You need to make sure that everything is testing and coming back. A lot of them affect kidney function. A lot of them will influence liver function. So you need to talk to your doctor. You need to talk about dosage with your doctor. You need to make sure it doesn't. And I would even say not just your doctor, but your pharmacist, because sometimes your pharmacists know contraindications better than the doctor. It's their job as a pharmacist, right? So I always tell people talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist before starting anything. Make sure it's not going to affect any of the other medications you're taking. Thyroid medications, you have to wait 4 hours before or after you take your thyroid meds to take things like iron or zinc. And Katie and I, we recommend iron and zinc to a lot of our women because zinc is so important to ovulation, and iron oftentimes it gets just diminished with blood flow, especially if you have long periods or heavy periods. So it comes up a lot, but if they're on a thyroid med, they can't take it within 4 hours on either side of their thyroid medications, or it will negate the thyroid medications. So, really making sure that if you're going to add in a supplement, you know how it's going to work with what you're taking, with your diet, with your body, all those kinds of things. So it's so important to talk to your whole team before you start taking anything and make sure that there's no contraindications. And some supplements have lots of studies and some don't. But I will tell you that in doing all the research for that supplement class, I didn't find a long-term study. So there's no real long-term effects for some things. Some things you need to pulse, some things you can take continuously, but I didn't find a long-term study for any of the like top, I think I did 15 or 20 supplements for that class. None of them had a study more than 6 months. So I had to say in that class, if you are recommending this to a client, they get the green light from their doctor and the dosage from their doctor, their pharmacist agrees, they come back and start it. 6 months is about the time where then you're going to have to go off of that supplement and see how you're doing. So you're taking a break to see how you're feeling in your body in that moment. And then maybe it's a month or a couple months, and then maybe you have to start again. But you really want to make sure that you are pulsing the things that need. Just remember to take a break occasionally as well.
Good point. And to go back, like even starting supplements, do it one at a time. Like if
Yes.
you don't want to start 5 supplements at once or 10 or however many you're taking, even if you're like, I've been taking this for a while, I don't even know what's working or not working anymore. And also something important that you brought up is
What if your menstrual cycle was your map for living in flow? That means living easily, living simply, living deliciously, living decadently, living patriarchy free. The revolution will be bloody. The greatest trick the patriarchy ever pulled was separating women from their cycles. It pitted us against each other and ourselves, turning one of our greatest power sources into something gross and unclean, a curse to be ashamed of. As a result, we've forgotten that our energy levels naturally wax and wane each month. Instead, we live our lives constantly pushing, striving, and doing, ending up burnt out and disempowered, and 90% of us will have a hormonal imbalance. This book proposes a revolutionary alternative, one of honoring your natural cycle and planning your life and business and flow with it. As you journey through these pages, you'll learn how to live, eat, and work in a beautiful alignment with your individual flow. It's time to reconnect with the power in your period. Are you ready to join the revolution? Pick up your copy of The Revolution Will Be Bloody today.
sometimes not even the supplement that's causing you not to feel great, but say you have SIBO and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm so bloated. I need to take a probiotic. I need to eat more sauerkraut. All of that's going to cause you to feel more, your symptoms way worse, right? But if you started 5 things at once, you're like, well, I don't know what's causing this to feel worse. This is why we want to do things slowly. This is not 0 to 100. There's no prize. The faster you go, it's better to really slow this process down when we're thinking about diet and lifestyle in general, but especially supplements. Just because you're bloated doesn't mean a probiotic is going to work. It might mean that there's something else going on.
Absolutely. And that's such a good point too, is taking them one at a time. And remember, some of them take a while. So DIM, something that comes up fairly frequently for us as women to help with our progesterone estrogen balance, takes 3 months to work. You don't generally feel effects until at least the second cycle. And I've given this to a lot or had a lot of clients who have taken it. And that 3 months is truly where most clients start to see some sort of effect. So it could be, start taking this like the magnesium glycinate immediately. That night I slept great, right? So immediately was like, yep, that's working. That's fantastic. Love it. Could have started a new supplement a couple days later because I knew it worked. I knew it felt good. I knew that. And I was taking the half dose on the bottle. Start low and slow with supplements, right? One of the rules that we talk about all the time is low and slow. So I started with a half dose and it was exactly what I needed. And in fact, for at least a year, a half a dose was good. And then when I started perimenopause, I was like, oh, I need to bump this up to the full dose. So I moved it up to the full dose as I got further into that perimenopause journey and sleep was becoming elusive. So, but then you can start another one, right? Like, okay, now I'm going to try ashwagandha or something. I'm going to try DIM. I'm going to add this in. But you need to also look into, does it take a while to kick in? Does it take a couple of cycles for you to feel effects? And in which case, you can't start something else in that time. So you've got a good 3 months when you start DIM before you can see the effect. So it may even be 4 months before you pick up something else to add into your routine so that you can see how that one is affecting you. Go through a cycle or two where you're like, okay, this is starting to feel better. Then see what's left, right? This is one of the things about supplements. It's like, okay, I'm sleeping better because of the magnesium glycinate. So now I'm not feeling as fatigued. I'm feeling like I have more energy during the day because I'm getting a good night's sleep. So I'm not feeling as tired. I am still getting really bad PMS though. So I'm going to incorporate DIM to help me balance that out. 3 months later, the PMS is not nearly as bad, but I'm still getting, I don't know, a headache at the end of the day. So it's like you really want to see what symptoms are eliminated before you start a new supplement. So low and slow, one supplement at a time, making sure you're giving it the proper time frame to kick in, and then see what symptoms you have before deciding on what's going to be next. Because you don't know what symptoms will be left or if anything will be left. Like you might get to the end of that dim and be like, that was it. I needed the magnesium glycinate. I needed some DIM. I'm going to pulse DIM for a couple of months, and then we'll see how it goes after that. So you may not even need anything else, right? Just what is left over, if anything, and then look into what would be best for that, whatever is left over.
I love that. And I think too, like I'm very sensitive to medications, to everything, supplements. So when everyone was raving about ashwagandha, and it made me total opposite. I was so anxious when I was taking it. So, like you mentioned, low and slow, but also be aware of how you are in general when you take medications and supplements or anything, right? So, because I'm so sensitive to that, I was like, okay, I need to start really small, or I'm not even going to take this because it's not working for me. But I used my phone, knew in the journal, whatever, and I wrote down when I started taking it and how I felt. So I knew that that's what it was. So that's also a really good suggestion too.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. And you bring up a really good point, Katie, is you're sensitive, but women are more sensitive in general.
mhm.
We have a finer tuned system because of all that's going on in there. And a lot of the studies and testing and stuff is done on men. There's not a lot of studies done on women. And a lot of the studies done on women are women who are on a hormonal birth control so that they're not getting a cycle, so that they're easier to study, or they're postmenopausal, so they're not getting a cycle, so they're easier to study. So a lot of the dosages for things are based off of amends, which like even caffeine, right? A man can metabolize caffeine in like an hour where it takes us as women 24 hours. So depending on your body, you may be even more sensitive, but just remember that if you are a cisgendered woman, you're going to be more sensitive to things. So when I say low and slow, I really do mean it. Like start with the smallest dose in that bottle. Like if you have to take 3 pills to do a full dose, start with one, right? The magnesium, I started off with a half a dose because it was 2 tablets. So I took one. But whatever the dosage is in that bottle, you may want to start low and slow because you are more sensitive to things. And then you can ramp up. There's studies on black cohosh, which is actually the most studied supplement for women and studied mostly for hot flashes, night sweats, those kinds of things. The dosages in the studies were freaking wild. I mean, I saw studies that had dosages that were like 30 milligrams, and then like the next study would be like 300. Like they were all over the place study wise. So what you need, and right, so my bestie has hot flashes and night sweats. Like she's at the point where she's just waiting for that year mark. She goes 6 months between periods now, but she's got the hot flashes and they're not getting any easier. So I was like, Black Hole Hash girl, and just ramp it up until it works. And she was like, okay. So she just spent like a couple of months taking a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until she got to a dose where she was like, okay, this is really starting to ease off the hot flashes and the night sweats. Like I'm actually starting to have them less, and this is really starting to work. That's, I mean, low and slow, right? We started her on a low dose and she just ramped it up until she started to feel some kind of effect for it. And Black Cohosh also, since I'm just talking about it, and it's a really popular one, it's in a lot of women's blends.
Mhm.
The one thing is they did a review where they went through all the past studies and looked through all of the data and everything, and they said that that Black Cohosh did much better against the placebo for hot flashes, night sweats, but not for anxiety or depression. And it's a lot of women's blends as like the anxiety reducer or the depression reliever or whatever. And it did not do any better than the placebo for those things. So if you're looking at certain supplements that are touted, you also have to remember that advertising is not the same as an actual study. So on the bottle, it might say great for anxiety and depression, but the reality, we did an entire episode on wild yam. That same thing. It did not do better than a placebo for helping people alleviate their perimenopausal symptoms or PMS symptoms because it's not the same progesterone. It is a progesterone, but it's a plant progesterone, not a human being progesterone. So you may see things advertised out there. As Katie just said, your influencer is getting paid to talk about it, but really, you want to study. You want to talk to somebody who actually knows. You want to look at a doctor. So if you're thinking about taking a supplement and you're not sure where to start and you don't have the money, say, to talk to a health coach or get an individualized plan, at least go to trusted sources. Go to Dr. Laura Bryden's website and just search in there for the supplement you're thinking about or the problem you're having. And they talk about dosage on their sites. They talk about the, pros and cons of things. So go to somebody who's a trusted source and not just an influencer as well if you really want to dive into supplements or sign up for a class or something. Katie and I have classes all the time. So you can jump on, and we have free classes, in fact, all the time that you can jump on and ask questions as well. So there are ways to get help and support for you depending on what price bracket you have to spend.
Yeah. And again, just remember you can't out supplement your diet. So again, the foundations are so important. What are you eating? When are you eating? Are you chewing your food? Are you hydrated? We really need to look at all areas. So this was a great question. I feel like we could talk for hours about this. So if you have follow-up questions or anybody that is listening to this Q&A, if you have follow-up questions, let us know. We'll definitely do a new episode answering your follow-up questions about supplements. Every day we're seeing new supplements, and I've been trying different things too, and some things I enjoy, some things I don't. So don't get overwhelmed with everything going on out there. You definitely need a personalized approach, one that works for you. You do not have to spend so much money on supplements, especially if you're not eating enough fiber, protein, and healthy fats.
Yeah, absolutely. So questions, comments, do you have a supplement that you're curious about that you want us to chat about? I mean, we did the wild yam episode, right? Because somebody was asking about it. So if there's a particular supplement out there as well that you'd like to chat about and find out more, let us know. Just shoot us an email or DM us on the old Instas. We're happy to chat about it. Otherwise, we will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. A big shout out and thank you to our sponsors for today's episode, Period Coaching School and Katie Bresek Wellness.
Thanks to you, our favorite bestie, for listening to the Period Besties Podcast, where no topic is TMI. And of course, share this episode with your besties.
Remember to leave us a 5-star review. Nothing less than the best for us besties. And subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
You can follow us on Instagram at Stasha Washburn and at Katie Bresek, or email us at periodbestiespodcast@gmail.com.
Check out more about us at katiebresek.com and periodcoachingschool.com. And of course, check the show notes for free goodies and extras that support this episode.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye for now, besties.